John was a kind-hearted young man who had grown up in a small village, unaware of the life that awaited him. From a very young age, he had been cared for by a woman who loved him dearly, but when she passed away, John was taken in by Mr. Parker, an old and gentle farmer who became like a father to him. Everyone in the village loved John. He was always helping people, whether it was carrying heavy baskets for neighbors, playing with children, or lending a hand to anyone in need. His smile was warm, his laughter infectious, and wherever he went, people admired his kindness. John's best friend, Liam, had grown up with him, sharing every adventure and mischief. They would spend hours playing football under the old tree, laughing until the sun went down. Liam often teased John, asking if he ever thought about himself, but John would always shake his head, saying that helping others felt more important than anything else. Despite the simplicity of village life, John felt a quiet happiness. Yet sometimes he would dream of a palace, a life he could not remember, a place that felt like home even though he had never been there. One day, a sleek black car arrived in the village. Out stepped a man with a serious but kind expression, a palace messenger sent on a mission to find someone lost long ago. The villagers whispered and pointed, but John continued with his chores, unaware of the moment that would change his life forever. The messenger watched him carefully, noticing the way John helped an old woman carry water and smiled at every child who passed by. In that instant, the messenger knew that this humble, caring young man was the one he had been searching for. John, the missing prince. The messenger approached John and asked him to come with him to talk in private. At first, John was confused and hesitant, but he felt that something in the man's eyes told him he needed to listen. In their quiet conversation, the messenger asked John questions about his past, questions only he could answer. John spoke about his mother, the woman he had barely remembered, and how she loved her garden filled with roses. He described his father, a strong and kind man who had always worn a blue robe in his memories. The messenger nodded. It was true. John was the missing prince, and his family had been searching for him for years. The news was hard to believe. John had spent his whole life in the village, loving and being loved by his friends and neighbors. But now he realized that there was a world beyond the fields and markets, a family waiting for him, a destiny he had never known. He said goodbye to Liam, who hugged him tightly, struggling with the thought of losing his best friend. Mr. Parker gave John a small carved token, a symbol of the home he had grown up in, telling him never to forget where he came from. With a promise to return and visit, John left the village behind, stepping into a future he had only dreamed of. When John arrived at the palace, he was greeted by guards and led into a grand hall where King Edward stood, tears of joy in his eyes. John fell silent for a moment, overwhelmed by the sight of the man he now knew was his father. King Edward embraced him, telling him that he had never stopped searching, never stopped hoping. John could hardly believe it, realizing that the life he had imagined in his dreams was real. He promised his father that he would make him proud, and King Edward told him that he already did. Though Queen Elizabeth had passed away before John could meet her, he felt her presence in his memories and the stories of his family. He vowed to honor her love, her sacrifices, and the warmth she had given him, carrying it with him as he embraced the life he had never known. The village John had left behind was invited to the palace to celebrate his return. John spoke to everyone gathered, telling them that although he was now prince, he would always remain their friend, their neighbor, their brother. He would always care for people just as he had cared for them in the village. Liam stood proudly beside him, cheering, happy that his best friend's heart remained the same. The celebration was filled with laughter, joy, and tears as John stepped fully into the life he had always deserved, without forgetting the home and people who had shaped him. As the sun set over the city and the palace, John looked out from the balcony, a soft smile on his face. He had a crown now, but his heart still belonged to the people he loved. Kindness had been his real power all along, and with that, he knew that no matter what challenges awaited him, he would always lead with love, courage, and a heart that had never forgotten its roots.